Yo guys, what is going on? It is General Storm here with a podcast style video, and I'm going to be calling it the weekly forecast. But I don't know if I'm going to upload these weekly. It just sounded a lot better to say weekly than like daily or monthly or yearly. Actually, that'd be annually. But it sounded like I was responsible, and it sounded kind of cool. This series is going to be about me talking, just random things. This kid is on a skateboard. But
Here we go!
I hate college. It sucks, man. I have to actually be responsible. Now I have to make my own coffee. Because I used to be able to wake up on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock and I'd smell Dad's Folgers coffee and just be like, "What up, Dad?" He'd be like, "Hey, doing the bills or something." And I'd just go over there and make some coffee because, that's what you do when you live in a household where the dad drinks coffee. If you don't, then you gotta do all the chores for the rest of the week. And I mean, that's just 2 days because Sunday's the last day, but still, you have to do a lot. I'm in college now, so I really can't just go home on the weekends. I mean, it's only about an hour drive, but I can't go home on the weekends every weekend and be there to drink Folgers coffee because I'm either working or doing something. That means if I want to drink coffee, I have to make it myself. So I went out and bought a coffee maker. And, I took it out of the box, threw it on the shelf, poured water in it, put the coffee grounds I bought in it, and I brewed it. But it tasted watery. And I'm like, maybe it's like a car where, you buy a new car straight from the box. Toyota. I don't know if they ship it in boxes from, it doesn't matter. Anyway, you got that new car smell. It's good. It's nice. So I thought, maybe that's it. But with coffee makers, it's just like, it tastes like water, or a little bit like bleach. That's what had me like worried for a second. I was like, this tastes like bleach. And I'm like, that would be like a safety. I could win a, but I knew for sure they wouldn't do that because they'd be in debt. So I just kept on brewing coffee, hoping it would get better, but it didn't. And so I started to blame the Colombian Dunkin' Donuts grounds that I got. I mean, they're medium roast, and I've had medium roast before, so I knew it wasn't that. So I just thought, like, maybe I just don't like Colombian coffee grounds. And then I saw on my coffee machine, it has different brew options, and mine was on the regular. And so I'm thinking, well, if I put it on strong, it's going to be stronger. And it didn't really, it still tasted the same. It's like, what the heck? And so I decided that this isn't worth it, so I'm just gonna stop drinking. And that's what I did. I just stopped drinking for a couple weeks. If I wanted coffee, I went to the cafeteria, drank it, and honestly, looking back, it tastes exactly like the coffee from like my coffee maker at the time. And the only reason I drank it is because I was like, oh, I don't want to drink my own coffee because it's broken or something. And I also didn't have any disdain for their coffee grounds because I didn't know what the coffee grounds were. And then finally, I was texting my dad and somehow it came up and he was like, "You drinking that coffee?" And I'm like, I'm drinking coffee, but not from the coffee machine. He's like, "You need to drink that coffee, son." And I'm like, "Okay, Dad." And so I go and I read the manual. And it said something about all water in the basin, because that's what it's called. It's called the water basin, which makes sense. All water in the basin is going to be used for the Keurig option. I think for both options, actually, because it's a 2-in-1 coffee maker. It's a pot fill, and then it's also like a single cup Keurig. And the only coffee machines I ever operated was a pot filled where my dad was like, "This is how you do it." And then he was like, "You want to press start?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I pressed start. So I'm like, okay, I'm a coffee professional. I forgot everything he said about it. Only thing I remember is like 2 scoops for 1 cup. I do 3 scoops for 1 cup, so I like it stronger. The reason why that's such a big thing is because I was putting 14 ounces of water in that water basin. And I was using an 8-ounce cup. And I was portioning my coffee grounds out to just 8 ounces. Because, that's what you do when you get an 8-ounce cup. You aren't planning to feed a whole family with coffee. I mean, at all. But, like, with 8 ounces of room, no way. And that would explain, the 14 ounces would explain why my coffee would overflow sometimes. I got a stain on the floor of my coffee machine because I overfilled my coffee cup with almost 6 extra ounces of coffee. Well, water, really, because that wasn't coffee. But it's all right. It's like a memento. I look at that, I'm like, don't do that again. You know how you failed, don't do it again. And so it's a learning thing. Now everything's going well. I'm brewing okay coffee. I still think I don't like those coffee grounds though. I'm trying to get used to them. I've tried like lowering the water count to where it's like 6 ounces to 7 ounces so that it's a little stronger because I like strong coffee, but it's still not, it's not there yet. So I think whenever these coffee grounds run out or spoil, I don't know if they spoil. I have it in the fridge. I doubt it'll spoil. If it does, woohoo. I don't know what coffee grounds to get next. Definitely not Folgers. We know I lived on Folgers. I'm not gonna continue living on it. I mean, I had it today because it's a 3-day weekend or whatever, so I came back. But maybe one day I'll become a male barista and I'll get to be known worldwide. You could buy my coffee. Maybe not Colombian. I don't know if that'll be on the. It'll definitely be on the menu if I become a famous barista. I could sell it and make millions of dollars, become the next Elon Musk, but with coffee. Where would I send it? It's a steady process. I'm learning about how to do coffee in different ways, how to brew it, how to drink it, different like portion sizes for sugar or creamer if I want to add that. I don't always drink it that way. I sometimes drink it black. I'm a man in some ways. And it'll take a while for me to get all that down through personal experiments or just researching, but you know, it's gonna take a while. I'm willing to wait because it didn't last as long as my quest to find a Phillips screwdriver. So the other day, I got home around 11 p.m. with my new 3060 Ti. It was at my dorm at the time because I had my computer there. And I dusted off the computer case because, you know, it's a special occasion. Not every day do you get a GPU, especially a 3060 Ti. Man, I've been waiting forever for that thing. And then I realized after I did all that and like unboxed my GPU and stuff, I needed a screwdriver. I didn't have a screwdriver. The reason I needed a screwdriver is because the outputs of the GPU needed to be unscrewed because they had little screws in them. And it wasn't one of those big heads where you could just grab a penny or a dime and unscrew it with that. It was a lot smaller. And so I was like, I need to get going. I need to find a place that has screwdrivers. And I'm thinking, well, Walmart has screwdrivers. And so I get in my car and I start driving to Walmart. I get there around 11:33, and then I'm like, huh, pulling in. There's no one here. There's like 15, 20 cars. Man, everyone must be like sleeping or something because it's almost midnight. And then I walk up to the door. I'm like, why are there shopping carts in front of the door on the inside? And I walk closer. There's a man just standing out there. I don't know if he was like a hobo or if he was a worker or whatever. I just like casually watched him as I walked up to the door. I wasn't like staring at him. It was out of my peripherals. But I did like look at the sign and it said closed at 11. And I'm like, Walmart closes at 11? I didn't know that. And so I was like a little panicked because now not only do I not have a screwdriver and it's almost midnight, but I have to look for a store that has a screwdriver that's open that's at midnight. And so I go on my phone. I'm like, grocery stores open near me because that works. And Walmart came up. And I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to look at each individual option. And so I started going through, and Walgreens came up. I'm like, okay, it says open till 12. And I look at my watch on my phone because I don't have a watch. And it says it's like 11:35, 11:37, and I'm panicking a little. It says 12 minutes away. I'm like, I can get there. I'm going to be that guy, but I can get there. And so I start speeding off. I go do the U-turn to get over there, and I just drive away trying to make sure that I can get there before they close. Now, at this point, I'm thinking in my head, this could go in this podcast that I'm trying to write. Because it would be funny if a bunch of things happened that made me not find a screwdriver or not be able to get to Walgreens. And so I'm just driving, kind of mind my own business, making sure I'm driving safe. And so I was just casually driving over there, kind of watching the time, making sure I wasn't going to get late, making sure I was making all the right turns because I didn't want to mess up and then get rerouted or whatever. And I was driving down this nice little neighborhood when I saw a cop. And I'm like, oh no, it's a cop. And I look at my speedometer, it says 35 miles per hour. I'm like, all right. And I look up and it says 20 miles per hour on a sign. And I'm like, oh no. And so I start slowing down. And I basically get down to 20 miles per hour right in front of the cop. My red lights are definitely on, so he could have like seen that and been like, oh, this guy's trying to avoid me. So I thank God that he didn't try to pull me over because, you know, I was in a rush and I couldn't avoid any time stalls. And it kept going great until I hit construction. And one of the roads that was telling me to go on was being constructed on. They were putting a roundabout or something in it. And I'm like, oh, shoot. And so I just take a left, hoping that the GPS will catch up. And it does. It's like, go this way. I'm like, sweet. I get there. It's about this time they said, about 12 minutes. And I'm just like frantically looking for a screwdriver. And I'm walking around. I see this lady. I just kind of ignore her. She's like looking at the soft drinks or something. And I walk across to the kitchen aisle. I'm like, well, why do they have kitchen stuff in Walgreens? And I don't think I'm going to find a screwdriver there. And so I turn around and there's school supplies. I'm like, okay, this kind of makes more sense, but I doubt I'll find it here. And so I start looking down, don't see anything. And then I see like an office supplies area. I walk over there, I'm like, okay, it's just printer ink cartridges. They could have just said ink cartridges. That would have worked. But I'm frantically like, okay, it's almost time for them to close. I'm in here and I need to find the screwdriver. I walk through the office supplies again, and then the lady that I saw earlier walks up and she's like, I'm not following you, I promise. And I'm just like, you're fine. I'm kind of scared now. I got to get out of here. And so I look through the office supplies. I'm like, I don't see any screwdrivers again. And I grab an X-Acto knife because I'm like, if all else fails, I could get this X-Acto knife in there, I'm sure. And so I'm walking out and I see a CVS. Never been to one in my life before. I see it says open 24 hours. I'm like, well, I'm already here. I don't have a screwdriver, so I might as well just drive over there. And I get there, and there's another man at the door. It's a different one, obviously, because it's CVS. Dude didn't walk like 15 miles over to CVS just to sit down and watch me walk in. So I'm like, man, what is going on with everyone just like laying around at the convenience stores? And so I walk in, and there's a couple of dudes that are just like cracking jokes, walking around. They have like some kind of hairbrush or something. They're like, imagine your girl had this. And I'm like over there like, you guys have girls? Dang, lucky. I'm walking around and I find a little like hobby section. I'm like, oh, there's got to be a screwdriver over here. I'm looking around. I'm like, I don't see anything. There's light bulbs. There's light switches. There's switch plates. I don't know why there's there, but they're there. And so I walk a little further down and I see screwdrivers, finally. There's two different kinds. One of them was like just a hobby set is what it was called, I think. And it was just a really tiny Phillips and a flathead. And I'm like, okay, that could work. But then I look up. And above it is this really big, really nice, torquey screwdriver with interchangeable heads. I could put in like a Phillips, a Star, or a flathead, and different sizes of them. And I'm like, oh, that might be nice. But then I look at the prices, and I'm like, oh gosh, the other one's triple the price of the hobby set. And so I chose that one because honestly, the design on the interchangeable one was terrible because you put the heads on the screwdriver, but they're positioned so that when you turn upside down, if you need to turn upside down with it and screw, they're all gonna fall out. I don't know if it was like magnetized or it like had a lock or something, but like it just wouldn't work. It's like, who the heck came up with this? Obviously someone who needed to screw in a light bulb or something. And so I finally got the screwdrivers, and I get back around 12:30ish, and I'm like, sweet, I have an X-Acto knife for no reason. And then I open up the package, excited to finally put my GPU in. The thing was, the Phillips screwdriver was too small, and I'm like, oh no, this can't, no. But thankfully, we all know flatheads are good for anything. You can use it for just about any screw you need, and that tiny flathead got the job done. I hope you guys enjoyed this ranked podcast style thing. I don't know. If you did, you'll love this awesome gem that I made a year ago. It's really funny. The intro kind of drags a little bit and it's boring, I'll be honest. But if you get past that, if you pass the 30-second mark or whatever, it starts picking up. It's pretty funny. I say that it's kind of rare because I've made a bunch of videos in the past, and most of them I cringe at. I look at them and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. When I watched the video a couple weeks ago, I actually enjoyed it. It was funny. I had a good time, and so I think you will too. Bye.